Hola a todos y bienvenidos a este video en que les explico las maneras en que los maestros de español puedan ejercer la pedagogía un poquito mejor. Hello everybody and welcome to this video where I will be explaining good pedagogical practices for Spanish teachers. The Danielson Framework is a very good rubric to measure yourself up against as a teacher, and it's going to be the focus of this video. Within the Danielson Framework, I'm going to be focusing on 3 specific things: demonstrating knowledge of content and pedagogy, managing student behavior, and using assessment and instruction. Being an effective Spanish teacher with good pedagogical skills requires a whole lot more than just being able to speak Spanish. Knowing how to teach the language in a way that sticks in students' brain requires a knowledge of how students retain information. As a Spanish teacher, you have to know the best ways to promote repetition and create those neural pathways in students' brains so they can remember things. They can remember the Spanish sentences and phrases and things. For example, instead of teaching big complicated concepts, such as this sentence, for example, tres tristes tigres trabajan trigo en un trigal, it's a little bit more important to start with the basics, such as the number tres, which means 3, and you can start with uno, dos, tres before you jump into the big long sentence that none of the students are going to understand. A good teacher doesn't just know the content really well, but also knows how to teach it to different students. Because some students may be better at remembering tres than other students. A good teacher knows how to keep the whole class engaged when one student is learning how to say tres tristes tigres trabajan trigo en un trigal, and another student doesn't even know the meaning of. Hola, mis amigos. Moving on to managing student behavior. A good teacher knows how to create an environment where the students feel comfortable sharing and exploring the language of Spanish and just spitting out things in Spanish. Because when a student is not scared to make mistakes, that's when true learning happens. Lots of trial and error. Along with students putting themselves out there, a good teacher should be able to have control over how students treat each other and respect each other when they're being vulnerable and they're all learning Spanish all together. One really good way for teachers to do this is by setting the expectations of a discussion before they even start. Sometimes for young kids, class management can feel a little bit like a circus. Oftentimes, teachers will just resort to coercion for immediate punishments for kids, but there's really much better ways to do this for little kids. Engaging students with new things to learn and group activities and projects is a great way to be creative with class management, especially with little kids. Little things like proximity, subtle cues to specific students, attention getters, establishing rules beforehand, consistent punishments, and teach, rehearse, reinforce technique. These can all make a really big difference in class management. Class management is a skill that is never ending. No teacher is perfect at it. The last point I want to touch on is using assessments in instruction. This is super important for Spanish teachers because oftentimes students feel like they're falling behind the rest of the class, even when they really aren't. And when students fall behind, they don't vocalize it, especially in Spanish. A good teacher is always checking to make sure that their students understand what they're learning through formative and summative assessments. Constant formative assessments can happen in really subtle ways. For example, a teacher can have students practice Spanish in small groups, and the teacher can go around to all the different groups and listen in and see if the students really are having the conversations that they should be having. Some other really good formative assessments for Spanish teachers are these ones right here. Holding up 1 to 5 fingers based off of student confidence on a topic, writing things up on the board, mini quizzes, exit tickets, Kahoot, and other creative formative assessments that you can come up with. Here's another key that weeds out a really good teacher. Summative assessments can actually be used as formative assessments for future students taking the class. A good teacher is always learning more pedagogical skills and is always improving themselves. Now, these 3 points of the Danielson Framework are just 3 out of the 22 points, but a good teacher should really be practicing all of them all the time. Effective teaching, especially in Spanish, means combining your content knowledge with pedagogical teaching skills and the ability to teach students. In Spanish education, effective teaching means combining strong content knowledge with a responsive, positive instruction. Now, when all these things are applied, a Spanish lesson could really be brought to life. School can actually be fun and engaging. Gracias por mirar. Thank you for watching. And I look forward to hearing back from you about working here at Willis High School as a Spanish teacher. Thank you for your consideration.